Welcome back. Today we're talking about advocacy. This is Dr. Lilach Saperstein from the All About Audiology podcast, and coming to you next week, or next week, very soon, for the H.E.A.R retreat. The H.E.A.R retreat is a retreat especially for parents of deaf and hard of hearing children, and we're going to be talking about the other things that come with the experience besides for the audiology specific things, but how does that fit in with your relationship to your child and your ability to advocate? So every Monday I've been giving you a little sneak peek of what's going to come at the retreat, but if you'd like to sign up for the free 7-day H.E.A.R retreat, go to allaboutaudiology.com/retreat, and then you can sign up for free. So how's everybody doing today? We are in the middle of celebrating Passover holiday, and we're eating a lot of traditional foods and songs and all of that, kind of family get-together things. And you know that it gives you pause. It gives you, sometimes when we have these holidays, you really have to take a deep breath from all the preparation and the cooking and the traditional stuff that you have to do a lot of things. But the question is why? Why do we do all these things? And what do we want for our family? What are some of the goals that we have for our family, the traditions and the values that we want to impart? These are all those kinds of questions that we're going to be talking about on the retreat as well, because I feel like many times when there is a diagnosis of hearing loss, especially when parents are hearing and have not really encountered the world of audiology before, it can be really overwhelming, and there can be this kind of tunnel vision that comes in of what do we need to do, what's the next appointment, what's the next device and repairs and batteries and all of this kind of real technical stuff, which obviously is important. But we also want to have a much broader vision as well of why do we want to do all these things for our child? Why do we want to encourage their language development and increase their accessibility to sound and make sure that they have all the services that they deserve? We want that for them so that, and then whatever that so that is, are your bigger goals for their education, for their socialization, for their connection with family, for their access to peers and, relationships. Basically, when we think about the goal, that is when we can get really clear on our advocacy efforts. So talking today about advocacy, and to remind you, the H.E.A.R retreat, we're going to be talking about 4 major pillars, H-E-A.R. And you can go back and watch their little replay snippets from H, history, E, emotion. Today we're talking about A, advocacy, and next week we're going to talk about R, reconnect, the ultimate goal. Okay, so when we talk about advocacy, it can really be daunting. It can be scary to feel like you've just been thrown into this whole world, and now you have to also speak up for them and fight for them and make sure they get what they deserve, when you might not even know what those things are, what the laws are, how the system works, how the medical system works, how the educational system works. And not only that, it can get really emotional, and it can get really draining and really exhausting. And you might also feel like scared that you're not doing enough, or that you're doing too much and not letting them grow or speak for themselves. So there's a lot of weight when we think about this big fancy word like advocacy. And I want you to know that that is totally okay and normal and part of the experience and part of the journey, coming to terms with this word and kind of simmering, letting it simmer to be like, what does this word actually mean to me? So I'm wondering, what does advocacy mean to you when you hear that word? What kind of things come up for you? Do you have sort of that little fluttering anxiety, like I have so much to do? Do you feel like super powerful, like it gives you the strength and makes you stand taller, like I'm going to come in and fight for my kid? I'm curious to hear, so put in the comments, even if you're watching in the replay later on. Hey. So we can always continue to have these kind of conversations and thoughts, as well as on the retreat. We'll dive even further into it. But I think the really, really important piece to take away from it really starts with you as the parent, the guardian, when you are coming into that situation, of course it's about your child. Of course they are the center and we are doing everything for them. But in the advocacy moment of tension, or IEP meeting, like service meeting, or a doctor's appointment, or like some lady on the playground says something really annoying and hurtful to your kid or to you, like in those interactions, remember to come back to you and your reaction and your responsibility and what you want out of this. So I actually created a framework around this called the FIG method, F-I-G. If you didn't guess by now, I like acronyms because they help you to kind of just like whoosh, pull it down from your memory bank when you have this thing come up and you're like, what was it again? The FIG method, F-I-G, FIG. And so what I do is I walk you through these things, and I actually do this in a full hour-and-a-half kind of workshop. I've done it with many chapters of Hands and Voices organizations across chapters in the U.S., and it's really a very immersive kind of topic. But in brief, the FIG method is familiarity, intent, and goal. And that means familiarity. Who is this person, and what is my relationship to them? Is this a doctor that is giving me important health information? Is this someone at the school? Is this my sister-in-law? Is it my neighbor? Is it a child or an adult? Like, who is it? Who is it with? And it's going to be very different how you respond and how you different factors. For example, you would speak very differently to a doctor than you would to a child at the birthday party, right? Those situations are very different, but lots of times they will bring up the same kind of emotions and the same kind of reactions, but really taking that second to be like, oh yeah, FIG method. First thing, familiarity. This is going to be different based on who I'm talking with and what my relationship to them is. Then we go to I, which is intent. And we think for a moment, what does this other person mean when they say what they say? Sometimes people really say the wrong thing. They say the wrong thing. They hurt our feelings. They say very condescending things. They say very patronizing things. They may even say things that are cruel and hurtful. And when that happens, again, it becomes very emotional. And that's totally natural when you're feeling attacked, to get defensive and to want to either fight back or talk back or get loud or run away or go hide or go cry. Like all those different reactions that we have, totally natural. It's just a question of, before we go into that reaction, we take a second, a pause, to try and see, can I possibly know if this person really meant to hurt me, if that was their intention, or if what they said was maybe said out of ignorance, maybe said out of curiosity. And that one happens a lot with other children, even other teenagers. Like, I'm not just blaming little kids here. I mean, like, young people, and also not so young people might say things or ask things in a way that comes off as rude, but really, maybe they've never seen a hearing plan, or they've never seen a Baja headband, and they say, oh, why is your son wearing a headband? Like, that's a loaded question from someone who doesn't about Bajas and has many assumptions about gender presentation. Like, it's just not about you or your kid in that sense. It's really about them, and they're like in their own ignorance moment. So some of those, usually I give lots and lots of examples, but I'm going to keep it brief here, and we're going to dive more into this on the retreat and bring more real life examples. But some of those things that people say are sometimes because they don't know or because they didn't think hard enough. Like, people most of the time don't actually come at you like and want to be cruel, except sometimes they do, right? Like, and sometimes that is the case. So I'm not going to say that some people are not bullies and that harsh things are not going to occur to your child and to you. Of course, that's going to happen. Okay, I'm not like this rosy lady that's everything's good all the time. No. But we can kind of still ask the question and see, is this person really coming at me? Or did what they say just super hurt me, but that's not what they meant? And when you put a little bit of space between what happened with your story about Brene Brown, who talks about that kind of thought process, What were they thinking when they said it? What were you thinking when you heard it? Two different stories. So that is F, familiarity. Who is this? What were they thinking? Where were they coming from? Or G, fig. The G is the goal. This is the goal rainbows around the G right here, because that is the most important part of the fig method, is to think of your goal. What do you want out of this interaction? If you're at a service meeting, then you go into that meeting and you should prepare and hope that you come in knowing what you want out of the meeting. So if that means getting a guide by your side or contacting your local organizations, having a lawyer come with you, having a parent advocate come with you, there might be resources available to you, or even having another parent who's done this before come with you to those meetings or prepare for those meetings, then you're going to know what's the goal of the meeting. What are you going to be asking for? What are you going to be hoping for to get for your child? Whereas, let's say, if you're going to like a social thing and there's going to be a party and there's going to be loud music and there's going to be different people speaking and that's going to be the vibe, is your goal that your child should have access and be included in all those activities? So that means maybe talk to the person planning the party. Maybe make sure that your child is sitting in a strategic place with the speakers. Start to think of what do you want, so that then you could advocate towards your goal, to the end of your goal. And if you're at the playground and your child is being taunted by these other kids, sometimes your goal is to leave the playground. Ta-da! And like in advocacy in that situation may look like, going and telling those kids don't talk, or going to their moms, or doing all that, which might be the case that you might choose, but it's because you choose it. Because you'll think, what is my goal? Is my goal to educate these children now? Is that what I need to be doing on my playground outing? Or is my goal to keep my kids safe and have a nice afternoon? Let's just go get ice cream over there, So when you think about the familiarity, the intent, and the goal, the FIG method for advocating, then you get a little bit more clear, a little more centered, a little less reactive, and you're ready to take on every advocacy situation that arises. I would love to hear what you think about the FIG method and what advocacy things you've had to do for your child or for yourself. So leave the comments here in the chat. As always, I love connecting with you over on Facebook, Instagram at All About Audiology Podcast, and I will see you at the H.E.A.R retreat very soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.